I ordered delivery 147 times last year. That is roughly once every 2.5 days. I do not live in a food desert. There is a grocery store 4 blocks from my apartment. I own a stove that works. I own pots that my mother gave me when I moved out, and a knife that could actually cut something if I ever tried. But at 6:30 on most evenings, I would open my refrigerator, stare at the eggs and the spinach and the half onion wrapped in foil, and I would feel something close to panic. Not hunger, panic. Like the ingredients were asking me a question I did not know how to answer. The refrigerator light is too bright. It makes everything look like evidence. So I would close the door, open my phone, and order pad thai. Again and again. The real reason I could not stop is not what I told myself, and it is not what you're probably thinking. I had a whole mythology built around it. I told myself I was busy. I told myself cooking was a waste of time for one person. I told myself the math actually worked out. My time was worth more than the delivery fee. I had spreadsheets in my head that no one asked for. 30 minutes cooking, 15 minutes cleaning. That is 45 minutes of my life I will never get back. The delivery fee was $2.99. My hourly rate, if I ever bothered to calculate it, was certainly higher than $4. So I was being economical, strategic, an adult optimizing her resources. I would watch that little bicycle icon move across the map and feel a relief so specific it should have been a warning. The relief of being taken care of without having to ask. The bag would arrive, warm and sweating slightly in the condensation, and I would feel, for about 4 minutes, like everything was handled. Like someone had noticed me. Like I was not alone in my apartment with a stove I never turned on. I would carry the bag to the counter, spread the containers out like a feast, and take a picture sometimes. Not for social media, for proof. Proof that I was okay. Proof that my life was full enough to require this much food. The raw observation I kept having and kept ignoring was this. I threw away almost half of it. Every time. I would order because I was anxious. I would eat 3 bites because I was distracted. I would put the container in the refrigerator with the best intentions. And 3 days later, I would throw it away, feeling nothing, and order something new. The food was not the point. The point was the sequence, the choosing, the ordering, the waiting, the knock, the brief, bright illusion that someone was coming to me on purpose. Then January came, and I did the math I had been avoiding. Not because I wanted to stop, because my credit card statement made me physically nauseous. $487 in 1 month, on delivery alone. Not groceries, not coffee with friends, just food arriving at my door in plastic containers, while my refrigerator hummed in the corner with vegetables slowly turning to soup. $487. And here is what the number did not capture. I threw away almost 40% of the food. I was not buying nutrition. I was not even buying pleasure. I was buying the moment before the food arrived. I was buying the knock on the door. I was buying the sentence, "Here you go, have a good night," from a person who did not know my name. I opened my refrigerator one Sunday to make space for groceries. I knew I would not buy, and I counted 7 containers. 7. None of them had been opened in the last 4 days. One had grown a white film that looked almost intentional, like a science experiment I had designed to prove I was incapable of taking care of myself. I stood there in the cold light of the fridge, wearing a sweater that cost more than any single meal I had ordered, and I felt a kind of shame that had no name. It was not about the money. It was about the care. The food had been made by someone, transported by someone, paid for by me, and I had let it die in the dark because I was never actually hungry for food. The quiet pain sentence I need to say out loud is this. I was buying the knock on the door because it was the only time all day someone came to me on purpose. There was a night in March. I remember the date because it was the first warm evening of the year, and I had my window open, and I could smell someone grilling downstairs. Charcoal, garlic, meat over flame. It should have made me hungry. Instead, it made me cry. I do not know why. I stood at my window, listening to people laughing in the courtyard, and I felt a loneliness so complete it did not even feel sad. It just felt like fact, like gravity, like the floor. I had already ordered dinner, Korean barbecue, $34. It arrived at 7:15. I ate half of it while scrolling through my phone, not tasting the sauce, not noticing the texture. At 9:30, I was hungry again. Not in my body, in some other place. I opened the app. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. I was not craving anything. I just needed the sequence. I ordered pho, $28. It arrived at 10:05. The delivery driver was the same woman from 3 hours earlier. She did not say anything. She just handed me the bag, and I saw something in her face that I did not want to see. Recognition, not judgment. Something worse. Pity. Or maybe that was just what I was projecting. I took the bag, closed the door, and stood in my hallway holding $28 of soup I did not want. I set the bag on the counter. I did not open it. I sat on my kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, and I looked at the pots my mother had given me, hanging on the wall where I had put them 2 years ago. I had not touched them once, not because I could not cook, because cooking for myself felt like admitting that this was my life. One person, one plate, one portion, one silence. Cooking meant accepting the table I had, the chair I had, the body I had to feed, and I was not ready to accept any of it. So I outsourced the care. I outsourced the warmth. I outsourced the proof that I was okay. I sat on that floor until the soup got cold. Then I put it in the refrigerator next to the other containers, closed the door, and went to bed without brushing my teeth. I had spent $62 on food that day. I had consumed maybe 800 calories, and the real cost was this. I had spent another evening proving to myself that I could not be trusted to feed myself, that I needed an intermediary, that I was not capable of the most basic form of care. The raw observation from that night: my kitchen floor is linoleum that looks like fake stone, and it is cold even in March, and my hips ached for 2 days after sitting there for an hour. My body was trying to tell me something my mind would not hear. I spent the next week trying to understand why the kitchen felt like a courtroom. Every time I looked at those pots, I felt accused. And then I found the note my mother had tucked inside the largest one. I had never read it. "For your first home together," it said. The ink was her usual blue, the kind she has used since I was small, and there was a smudge where her thumb had rested too long. I was not with anyone when I moved into this apartment. I am still not. And every time I considered making soup in that pot, I heard the word "together" echoing in the empty room. So I ordered pho instead, from a restaurant, where someone else made soup for strangers. It was easier than making it for myself and feeling the absence of the person who was supposed to share it. That was the hidden cause. It was not laziness. It was not busyness. It was not even the money. It was grief. A quiet, stubborn grief for the life I thought I would have by now. The partner, the children, the table with more than one chair, the Sunday dinner that took 3 hours because there were people to feed and stories to tell. I had grown up watching my mother cook every night, not because she loved it, but because it was how she showed us we were a family. The table was where we were supposed to be whole. And when I grew up, I carried this unconscious idea that cooking was preparation for the life I was supposed to have. Cooking for myself felt like rehearsing a play where the other actors never showed up. It felt pathetic. It felt like giving up. So I stopped trying. If I ordered food, I could pretend I was a person who was too busy, too important, too something to bother with a stove. The takeout bag was proof that I was living a life where cooking was optional, where I had options, where I was not waiting. But I was waiting. That was the whole problem. I was waiting for my life to start. I was waiting for the table to fill. I was waiting to become someone who deserved the trouble of a home-cooked meal. And while I waited, I let strangers feed me in the dark, alone, not tasting anything, not caring what died in my refrigerator. Because taking care of myself felt like admitting that this was it. This was the life. One person, one plate, one silence. And if I admitted that, I would have to grieve it. And grief is expensive in a way. Delivery fees are not. I did not quit delivery overnight. That is not how this works. The first thing I did was smaller. I bought a single eggplant. One, I carried it home like it was made of glass. I cut it into cubes, burned half of them, and ate the rest over rice with too much soy sauce. It took 40 minutes. It cost maybe $3. It was not good. But I made it. And something happened while I was standing at the stove that had not happened in months. I forgot to check my phone. I was too busy trying not to burn the second batch. I started cooking one meal a week. Not because I was trying to save money, not because I wanted to be healthier, just because I wanted to know if I could stand being alone with myself for the length of time it took to chop an onion. At first, I hated it. The silence was too loud. The apartment felt too small. But slowly, the silence changed. It became less like a courtroom and more like a room. Just a room, with me in it, making food, for me. The first time I ate something I cooked at my actual table with a napkin, I cried. Not from sadness, from the shock of treating myself like someone I planned to keep. I still order delivery, maybe twice a month now. And when I do, I notice it. I taste it. I choose it because I want it, not because I am running from something. Last week, I made a terrible stir-fry and ate it at my table with a napkin. Like I was someone worth setting the table for. I was the only one there. And for the first time, that felt like enough. Not like a consolation prize, like enough. The raw observation I keep coming back to. The pot my mother gave me has a dent on the side now from where I dropped it trying to drain pasta. I did not fix the dent. I kept it. It is proof that I use it. Proof that I am here. Proof that I am feeding the person I actually am, not the person I was waiting to become. I am not going to tell you to cancel your delivery apps. I am not going to give you a meal plan. I am just going to tell you that if you are spending money you do not have on food you do not taste to avoid a feeling you will not name, the food is not the problem. The problem is what the food is standing in for. For me, it was the life I thought I would have by now. The table with more than one chair, the together that did not happen, and the terrible, quiet grief of having to learn how to feed a person you never expected to be. The quiet rule of the week is this. Feed yourself like you are someone you plan to keep. That is it. Not like you are waiting for your real life to start. Not like you are punishing yourself for being alone. Just like you are someone worth the trouble. Because you are. And the first time you believe it, even for the length of a burned eggplant, something shifts. It is small, it is quiet, but it is real, and it is yours.